Hi everybody, it's V. Just saying with V. Sorry, been gone for a little bit. Hope everybody had a happy Mother's Day. I did. Got to see my boys. Got two beautiful pictures I'm going to post on Facebook today with them. But I am going to catch up on with what's been going on with the latest news. Everybody's been fighting, everybody's been talking, everybody's been arguing about this subject, so I decided to, if you know me, do my research. And I always am very analytical, and I like to go into a little more depth than most people do. So what did I do? I looked up the definition, but not just one definition. I looked up 2, 3, 4 maybe definitions of the word that is the hottest topic on the face of the earth right now. It's causing riots everywhere you go, pretty much. It's causing people to want to hurt each other. It's causing people to want to fight with their neighbors. It's causing people to want to be ugly to maybe even their own family members and friends. And it's just not right. And it's one that's causing more political division than needs to be. And it's one that's seeming to cause a type of form of division in America that doesn't actually need to even exist, because yes, there is some in the world, but I don't think it is as bad as it's being portrayed to be. I think it's being used as a ploy to, let's say, have certain political agendas be met. And what is that word? Racism. So, what is the actual definition of racism? Well, one of them is, and I'm going to read because I may not take a lot of notes, but I'm going to, because like I said, I've always told you guys, don't always believe everything I say, do your own research. But, so I'm going to be doing a lot of reading, but like I said, do your own research, guys. But one of the definitions is the belief that race is a fundamental determinant of human race and capacities that racial differences, profiles, an inherent superiority of a particular race. A second definition was the system of oppression of a racial group to the social, economic, or political advantage of another. A third definition was the inability or refusal to recognize the rights, needs, dignity, or values of people or particular races or geographical origins. Now keep all of these in mind as I read these, because they're all going to come into play later. Because these are all definitions of racism. Fourth one, unfair treatment of people who belong to a different race, violent behavior towards them, and examples of a victim of racism or ugly outbreaks of racism, or the urgent need to address institutional racism within the organization. It is important to identify the root cause of that perpetuated the systematic racism in the city, and it's structural or casual racism. Those were the different definitions of racism, and that came from different dictionaries like Oxford, Webster, Cambridge. Those were the actual dictionaries that I got those from. These aren't like just, these are noted dictionaries that we use in our libraries, in the White House, in colleges all across the United States. These are notable, noted dictionaries that are used by high ups, the higher ups, okay? Scholarship type ones. Okay, now that was racism. Now the definition of a racist, it says, or it doesn't really say, but this is something that I read. Now these are things I've read, things I've taken from notes from scholars, notes from publicists, notes from books, notes from things. So it's not things that I've made up. These are things that I've researched on. So I'm not taking credit for this, okay? But the definition of a racist is today, it's not just actors or actions, excuse me, it's not just actions. It has become what someone feels. The two may seem the same, but it's tricky. And an example is like if one person, let's say race A, comes up to race 2 and says, I like your car. And let's say they really seriously like it. Okay? And they really, really admire it. And so they start asking questions about it, like, man, where'd you get your car? And what does it do? How fast does it go? And they just keep asking questions. And race, 2 starts to get kind of upset because they're asking so many questions. And they start feeling like, their race A is being intrusive because they're asking so many questions. Then it becomes harmful to them. So then they may start calling it racism. That's how we have become now. And that's where we've come from when racism first started way back in 1902, when the word racism first kind of started. And when you think about it, in a lot of ways, I'm not saying that that's how it is with everybody, because it's not. There really is bad racism in certain areas. I truly believe that we have people that are racist on both sides, on all sides. There is, I've always been taught there is trash in every part. There is white trash, there is Asian trash, there is Mexican trash, there's good white people, there is good Asian people, there is good Mexican people. There's bad and good in both, in every race, every single race in America. So I'm not saying racism doesn't exist, it does. But there's this kind too, that people are going to get just mad about a few things and they're going to call it out now, because right now it's so big in the world, it's such an issue that they're going to do something like that situation that I read about, that person kind of made not that example, but kind of made it seem like that. You know what I'm saying? Now, let's start talking about in racism. In that situation, that person's, it was kind of tricky, but there are parts of racism where it's antagonism. They get people, they have to kind of cause it, because one of the definitions was that it has to be brought on. There has to be something that brings it on. So the definition of antagonism is opposition of a conflicting foreign or force and tendency or principle, the antagonism of democracy to dictatorship. And that is what I feel that is going on right now. I think that, if you remember, I said that the world right now, we're talking a lot about this word, racist and racism, and that's what they're protesting, that's what they're rioting, that's what is going on in the world, that's what we've had, people are fighting each other about and trying to destroy each other about. And I'm not saying it doesn't exist, once again, but I'm saying it's going too far. They're censoring this and they're censoring that, and they're canceling this and they're canceling that, and they're trying to change our history in school, and they're trying to take away this and take away that, and make you not love your neighbor anymore, and make you question everybody, and make you think that your friend's not your friend anymore, because doing just that. They're taking and antagonizing each other in America to take away democracy and make it dictatorship. And that's why I'm saying, do your research, open up your eyes. Don't be woke, be awake. That's what I'm trying to say. And I'm going to show you examples, and I'm going to go further into this. The definition of they keep saying we have systematic oppression, systematic racism, and I'm going to go into all this. Systematic oppression is the institutional oppression occurs when an established laws, customs, and practices systematically reflect and produce iniquities based on one's membership or targeted social identity groups. That's one part of it. Now this is on in the U.S. I looked this up. This was on a U.S. definition of it. This is in paperwork in the United States paperwork laws, and somewhere up there in the White House or Congress somewhere. These are in there, okay? And 2, institutional oppression. Create a system of invisible barriers linking people based on their membership in unfavored social identity groups. The barriers are only invisible to those seemingly unaffected by it. C. Stereotypes are attitudes, beliefs, feelings, and assumptions about a target group that are widespread and socially sanctioned, can be positive and negative, but all have negative effects. Stereotypes support the maintenance institutionalized oppression by seemingly validating in misinformation or beliefs. Now I want you to keep all that in mind. And then I'm going to say this is D, okay? Prejudice is favorable or unfavorable opinions or feelings about a person or group, usually formed without knowledge, thoughts, or reason. It can be based on a single experience, which is then transferred to or assumed about all potential experiences. Now, I'm going to give you examples to each one of those that's being played out in our world today. Okay? Let's start with the first one. Let's start with A. Okay? Let's see if we find my example of A's. Okay, here's our example of A. A, once again, this is definition of the systematic oppression and racism that they are calling out in the world today. And I'm going to show you how the Democrats, how our politicians and all these people on the news are fooling you. I'm going to say fake news, okay? Because I'm still telling you, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, don't watch them. I'm telling you guys, you've got to watch Tucker Carlson, Hannity, Stinchfield. You've got to pay attention to these guys, the real people. Ingram, the Ingram angle, Waters World. You've got to pay attention to them. They're the ones telling you the truth. The rest of them are liars. I'm telling you, listen to the good politicians, Jim Jordan, people like him. You've got to pay attention to them. Josh Hawley, you've got to. Ted Cruz, please listen to them. Okay? But all right, here's an example of A. This is A. Remember, institutionalized oppression occurs when established laws, customs, and practices systematically reflect and produce iniquities based on one's membership in targeted social identity groups. Now, here's the example of how this is playing out right now in our world today. Okay, Derek Chauvin is in jail. Okay, he's convicted. Okay, protests are not peaceful. The news is saying there's peaceful protests being held. They are not peaceful. They are not. If you believe they are, you're crazy. But they're not peaceful. They're rioting. They're destroying people's businesses, people's lives. That if you're lucky, if you're in a state where they're even allowed to be open, they're once again being destroyed. People's lives are being killed. There's people being killed at these riots. Police who are still trying to defend us. Not all police are bad. There are good police officers. Once again, they're putting in, what are they doing? They're doing exactly what that said. They are putting together base. They're putting all the people, putting them together, all in one. All in one. All in one group. All in one group. That's what they're doing. Putting them all in one group. Putting them all in one group. Trying to say, yep, this is it. This is what it is. This is how it is. Yep. You know. Okay. So they've got them all together. Okay. So the media is lying about it. Okay. Rage and destruction is what's happening. That's what's happening. Okay. So it defines the root cause of the system. So it says you have to find the root cause of it, okay? That's part of the aggression part of it. You've got to find the root cause of it. What's the root cause of it? The root cause of it is people, the root cause of the racism in the city. That was one of the things you have to find, is the root cause of it. That's the oppression part. Where's the oppression coming from? Okay? The racism in the city. We have to define the root cause of the systematic racism, remember, in the city, which is also fed by the antagonism. That all fits into play with it. So where's that coming from? Before the trial even happened, you had Maxine Waters out there saying, we better get the right one. We better get the right conviction, or we're gonna tear it up. So there was already people out there rioting anyway, but she had already warned them, if we don't get the right thing, it's going to get worse. So right there, there you go, right there. She's already done it, right there. She already gave them permission to do it. So she, right there, was the aggressor committing systematic racism. So she's doing systematic racism, but yet she goes on the other side of TV saying, we're oppressed by white people with systematic racism. Excuse me? You're saying that everybody else in the world, not just white people, but everybody else in the world is systematic racism, but you just did it. You just were the aggressor and did the systematic racism. But let's go on, keep going. You've got Kamala Harris, who did it over the summer when there were people getting killed and riots were going on. And even the officer who tried to go protect his friend's shop and got killed while they were breaking in and looting it. And she set up funds to bail people out. And for all we know, maybe even could have been one of the people that killed him. And she went on news and said, it's going to happen. We're going to keep doing it. Excuse me. There we go again. Aggression. To keep fighting and even paying to bail them out. Aggression to help systematic racism, because she's creating it to start the violence in the city. So she is part of the systematic racism herself, but yet she goes and she says, after Derek Chauvin got found guilty, that this is a start, but we've got a long ways to go. Yeah, we have a long ways to go when you are part of the problem. Next, your news reporters, Democrats, Democratic mayors, governors, senators, Congress, they're all encouraging violence, destruction, even loss of lives. But Target, now on the flip side, see, if you remember, it said that they target certain ones on their customer practices. So they're going after the ones, the ones that they don't like, okay? But if you also remember, I said on the definition of the racism that they also, they're tolerant of the people who belong to their group. So the people committing the riots, they're okay with them, right? Remember, they bailed them out. Maxine Waters said, yeah, keep on going, and we're going to get worse if you don't do like we like. But the ones that are not doing what they like, they go after them. Remember, that was part of racism, is the oppression of the ones they don't like. They target them. They go ahead and recognize them. They inability and refusal to recognize their rights. So, in the same part of this is part A, they've already, okay, so we already know, I go what I've already said to you about what they said about the other. Now, in the same section, in the same city, the people they're going to target are the ones, they're going to arrest the people that have businesses that are trying to stay open maybe, or rebuild, because they're going to say, no, you can't do that. No, we want you closed down. We didn't tell you could open up yet. No, you can't have more people in your business. No, you can't have anybody open up yet. We want you to stay closed. So we're going to arrest you. You want to be a gym owner and you want to open up? No. We're going to fine you $15,000 a day. Oh, no. Because we said no. But these people could run around here with no mask and they can protest, but that's okay. But no, you can't have any customers and open your business. Oh, gosh, no. No way. We're going to fine you. We're going to have the police come get you and lock you up. Part of systematic racism. Definition. Read it to you. Unconstitutional. They're unfair treatment. Violent behavior is okay, but you opening your business is not. Second example of that, Christians, bakers, bakeries, churches, things like that, being targeted due to their beliefs. Remember I said they target your rights, your beliefs, and your rights that were given to you by the Constitution. They're taken away, and they're protected unfairly. They're punished unfairly. Systematic racism, once again, with the law, the use of the law, and customs. That's what it said, law and customs, because they refuse to recognize their rights, needs, and values. That's what it said. It said over there. It said right there, the definition of systematic oppression, refusal, institutional oppression occurs when established laws, customs, and practices systematically reflects and produce iniquities based on one's membership and targeted social identity groups, and for their rights, if it won't recognize their rights, and that's what it's doing. So, it won't do that. So what's that? What do they do? What do? They refuse. The refusal to recognize their rights, needs, and values because they're different. Also, it makes them it's how they feel. It's more of how they feel. Once again, remember I told you how the feelings, how racism, and more how you feel. I mean, think about it. The institutional government is trying to harm the establishments due to your feelings, since there are other options. it's not really that it's not really that they're being it's not really why they're being targeted. It's a business values rights belief. If someone comes to, like, let's take the bakery, okay? They come and the LGBT, LGB comes and they want a cake baked, and they say, no, I'm sorry, I'm a Christian, I don't believe that, and stuff. There's other bakeries they can go to. It's not that they are actually hating the people. It's not that they're targeting them. It's they have other options. They don't have to sue them. They could say, okay, thank you, I appreciate it. It's like me. I went to a store and they had, I asked for something and they didn't have exactly what I wanted. They said, no, I don't sell that kind of thing, or I don't sell this. Maybe they don't sell like a certain pair of jeans. Like, I want Lawman jeans. Okay, so I go to a jeans store and I say, you sell Lawman jeans? Because they fit me just right. And they say, no, we don't sell those jeans. Well, it's not like I'm going to go sue them because they don't sell Lawman jeans. I mean, come on. It's the same thing. The institution was going after them because they had Christian beliefs. It's not. There's other options. There's other places that they could have got that cake. Or a church has a right, if their belief, if it's their Bible tells them that is their belief, not to marry somebody because of their belief, that it's a man, it has to be a man and a woman. That's their belief. I mean, it's like going to someone that lives in an Amish household and tell them they have to have electricity if they don't want to. You can't do that. That's their belief in rights. It's all part of racism. It's what I read to you. So, okay, I'm going to try not to make this super duper long. So that's examples of A, okay? Let's go with B. B, remember, was initial institutional impression creates a system of invisible barriers linking people based on their membership in unfavored social identity groups. The barriers are only visible to those seemingly unaffected by it. So let's go to examples of B. So examples of B. Let's go with one of the big ones, abortion clinics. Why are they always some in areas that are mostly poverty sections? Have you ever paid attention to that, really? Mostly Democrat states. And why is Planned Parenthood support options always leaning more towards that direction as an easier option? Why are they not teaching more about abstinence or giving them free sonograms when they're pregnant? Let them hear the baby's heartbeat. Let them see that baby. I guarantee you they'd be a little more interested in saving a life than destroying a life. Or maybe, even if they don't want to give it up for adoption. Or using the funding, because they get massive funding. Massive funding. Why don't they use it to maybe help them find good parents, do background checks on people, get a list of people, and get the babies adopted? Or if it's a young woman and she's just scared or afraid she can't do it on her own, get her help. Get her counseling, get her help. Show her she can do it. Get her parenting classes. Why don't we do things to try, if you're Planned Parenthood, help the child live so it has a parent? Wouldn't that be a little better use of that money instead of destroying a child, saving a life? Or get programs to the schools earlier and really reach out to the kids at a younger age and teach them. Really teach them. Get rid of school unions. That's what the system of oppression is about. That's where we're going back to that. That's your political advantage reasons. That's where it comes in. That's where that second part is for the oppression part, because that's where it oppresses it down. So that's the racism part of it. Once again, it all falls into racism with the definition of racism and oppression, because the unions are going to want to teach our kids things they don't need to be taught, and they're going to lead them in directions that they don't need to be led into. So we get rid of the unions. Let's go back to teaching our kids like we used to learn. Let's go back. Let's teach them real history. It's ugly, yes, but it's the truth. It's what made us. Oh, sorry. It's what made us, and that's what we learn from, and that's how we grow. We don't make the same mistakes, and we can't. It's kind of like me. I made mistakes when I was being a parent. And I teach my kids, don't make the same mistakes I did when I parented you. Learn from my mistakes being a single mom, and the mistakes that I made that you saw that I made, that I could have been a better mom. When you're teaching your kids and raising them, learn from the mistakes I made. That's what we need to do as the mistakes we made as our country. Let our kids learn about the history, so as they become adults, they don't make the same mistakes when it's their turn to be in charge of the country. Let's not lie and change our history. But that's the invisible barrier that the politics, are trying to keep from us. They're limiting people because no one sees the number of babies being killed or the children's lives messed up because of the government corrupt plan for their future, or because of the high tech and the fake news, and because of them telling their false lies and their promises, and the promoting fear and the doubt that they do. That's all they do. That's part of everything that they're dealing with all this. It's that's the barrier that they're doing. It's kind of like when they would fact check people, and stuff. They want to keep everything hidden from people, and they're doing it to our kids. Even that's why they want to take away our history. They want to fact check our kids. They want, just like now they're wanting to keep the mask on our kids. That's not safe. Or try to give them the vaccine. There's no need for the kids to have the vaccine. The kids have way less chance of getting COVID than we do. So why would they need a vaccine? That's like saying, I'm one of those people that have that little mark from that shot way back when. I was like, my brother didn't have to get one because I stopped it about the time. He's 4 years younger than me. That's be like saying, oh, let's go ahead and start that shot again. There's no need for it. I mean, but they want to the news keeps wanting to put the fear in you. It's all barriers. That's, like I said, at the abortion clinics, that's one of the biggest things. It's a barrier. But they just limit you. They don't let you see the facts of where that money is going to and what they're doing with it, and what it's causing, what it's destroying the world, how many lives are being destroyed by all this, and what they're doing with those babies they abort. If you knew what they were doing with those babies, it would break your heart, especially how they murder some of them, that they're born alive and they don't care. I mean, that's just part of it. Okay, let's go to C. C is stereotypes. Stereotypes are attitudes, beliefs, feelings, and assumptions about a target group that are widespread and socially sanctioned. Can be positive and negative, but all negative effects. Stereotypes support the maintenance or institutionalized oppression by seemingly validating misinformation or beliefs. So let's do Examples of C. Okay. My examples of C. All right. This one was easy. Okay. The facts. The facts are that states that have reopened their economy, they terminated the mask mandates, the cases dropped significantly, they defied Biden's warnings, and they're prospering. They're doing well. Restaurants are open. You can go in and eat. Stores are open. Economies are booming in their states. People are not getting as sick. Less cases. I mean, everything's going well. Texas, Florida, Iowa, Mississippi, North Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, and even more starting to. Yet, the fake news, oh my gosh, keeps reporting that if you don't, wear at least 3 masks on yourself, you're in big danger. You're not going to survive. You better be careful. 3 masks might be safe. Yeah, you better be careful. Stay 6 feet apart. 3 masks. Don't. Oh, gosh, yeah. They create fear. Democrats want fear to keep control of you. It's that simple. If you watch the real news, if you pay attention, you do your research. Veritas showed recently, someone went undercover, met with one of the big CNN producers, or someone, I don't know if it was an actual producer, but it was somebody high up, that admitted on camera that they lied about Trump, his health. They lied about Biden's health. They lied about that they pushed the COVID thing, and they kept pushing it, and they're still pushing it because fear sells. They also lied and made comments about Matt Gaetz because they said he's a thorn in the Democrat side and he could cause problems for them. Because if you remember, not long ago, there's a big story about him. The Democrats are scared. They're scared you'll find out the truth. And then they know that if you find out the truth about things, that you, as an American, will start standing up for your rights. So they want to keep you scared. They want to keep you wondering, and they want to keep you questioning. But they always want to keep control. That's a simple fact. That's why I always say research. Please do not pay attention to the fake news. You have to. I'm going to repeat it again. You have to watch Tucker Carlson, Hannity, Stinchfield, Ingram Angle, Waters World. You have to watch them. They're the only way you're going to get any truth. And do your research. Liberty and Levine, you've got to watch them. You've really got to do your research. Revolution with Steve Hilton. There's so many of them that are telling the truth, and they have the facts to back it. Because after you watch them, if you're saying that just doesn't sound right, go research it. Don't just Google, because Google is not going to give you the facts. Google's paid. There's so many of these places that are bought. There's so many politicians that are bought. You've got to really know and you've got to vote the right people in. And you know what? In your city, get out there. Get an office. Don't be afraid to speak out. It takes us to speak out. And these Hollywood people, they're just as fake. I'm telling you, they are just as fake. Just as fake. But let me get back to this. Okay. So anyway, fear sells. And then it's going to be, they're just going to keep running the stories. They're just going to keep doing it. Because it's all socially sanctioned by the media and the Democrats that talk in interviews about, about it. I mean, look at Como, Lemon, The View. The TV show The View is one of the worst. Oh my gosh. And then people like Pelosi, Cortez, they're gonna say all this stuff. Biden's gonna get out there and he's been told to say it. Oh, we got to be safe and do this and that and stuff. And they talk about like you have to wear all these masks, but yet they got these immigrants coming over and they're not giving them any shots and they're not giving them any masks and they're letting them run wild, except the children. Why is that? Doesn't that make you wonder? Why are they keeping the children separate? Why? Doesn't that make you question some things? That's funny. Do your research. I'm not going to talk about that one right now. But, okay, second part of my example of this is that the government talks a lot about the January 6th insurrection. Okay. They lied about so much on the news about that. And they still have not corrected themselves. They lied about how the officer was killed. He wasn't killed, excuse me. They lied about the fact that they knew that something was going to happen days before. And why did Nancy Pelosi ask for extra protection? And why were there videos made by certain people, certain female people that said, oh, I was very scared, but yet she wasn't even, I don't think she was like that much in the area. But we won't say any more about that. Anyway, because that same person won't go to the child place when she did like on Trump and made a big scene, but she won't go and worry about the kids now. Anyway, but they lied so much about it. And yet, insurrection is speaking out, causing riots or inciting. Insurrection means inciting riots, terrorism, violence. If you see any of that person's people, you go after them, you get them. I'd punch them in the face myself. If we don't get the right verdict, let's cause some trouble. If things don't keep going right, we're not going to stop. We're going to keep going. Sounds like some insurrection words to me. If I looked those up, I'd be curious who said them. Anyway. Okay. Nevertheless. But that don't count because that's systematic racism, because it only applies to the people that you want it to apply to. Because it's the people that you favor. I'm only going to be against the people I don't like, or I don't like their particular. Remember, race is not necessarily, the definition of race is not necessarily all about skin color. It's about certain groups. Geographical origin group, or could be, your race group, geographical origin, or ethnic group, or remember the whole definition? There was 4 or 5. So that's part of systematic racism. And we got a lot of people up in Washington doing a lot of it. They're causing a lot of what's going on in the world today of systematic racism. It's not us doing it. So let's finish this part out. So, they never really investigated the whole thing. You ever notice that? And stuff, yeah. They never speak out socially. They never get everyone to accept it. But don't hold rioters accountable for the summer, do they? Or the summers now, or the lives lost. Haven't held anybody accountable. No, the senators, Congress, speakers of the House, nobody, even the president, vice president, nobody worries about what's going on now or over the summer. We're just going to keep using that day. That was the worst day. Well, what's going on now? That's nothing. We're losing more lives now. But that's okay. That's not, it doesn't matter to them. Well, it does to me. And to the families that are, people's lives are getting hurt now. But it doesn't to them. But, oh well, who am I, right? Okay, we got one more. Let's go to D. So, like I said, it's all ugly outbreaks of it. It's, you know, they just want to cause us to separate and divide. That's all they want us to do. They don't want us to unite. They said they wanted unity, and they've done everything but. They're antagonizing everything but. Okay, so D is prejudice. Prejudice is favorable or unfavorable options or feelings about a person or group, usually formed without knowledge, thoughts, or reason. It can be based on a single experience, which is then transferred to or assumed about all potential experiences. So let's go with this one. And I'm going to quote somebody on this one because I found this quote very, very interesting and very accurate. Or not necessarily accurate, but accurate to what's going on. I'm not going to say I agree with it, but accurate to what's going on. And I'm going to give you an example of it, okay? This is a quote from the president of Race Forward. He stated, his name is Glenn Harris, he stated, the systematic racism is naming the process of white supremacy. Harris said it creates disparities, many success indicators, including wealth, the criminal justice system, employment, having healthcare, housing, healthcare, politics, and education. He asked because of George Floyd video online. He asked, or let me start over because I don't want to get in trouble for misquoting. He said, systematic racism is naming the process of white supremacy. Harris said it creates disparities in many success indicators, including wealth, the criminal justice system, employment, housing, healthcare, politics, and education. He asked because of George Floyd's video online that it adds to trauma. When is the last time you saw a white person killed online? That's what he asked. Well, Glenn Harris, I looked it up, and just one of the videos that I found was April 11th, 2021. And that white person killed was a police officer. His name was Darian Jarrett. He was doing a simple traffic stop because he just wanted to give a man a warning to let him know that his windows were tinted too dark. Just a common courtesy to let him know his windows were tinted too dark. And he was on the passenger side of the truck. And he had just asked him to come walk back. The guy had told him, I got a gun in my truck. And he said, that's okay. Just, can I hold it? You know, can you get it for me and let me have it? And let's walk back can you meet me back at my car and stuff, and I'm just going to check on you and stuff, and I'm just going to let you know. Well, when the guy got out his gun, he looked at the officer and shot him. And that video is online. So, Mr. Harris, that's the answer to your question. But, and I'm not saying this in a negative way, please. I'm not racist. I have a young man that I love with all my heart. I have for over 20 years that I call my son. I help try to promote him as he's trying to get his music out. And he's an African American young man, gorgeous son that I just call my son. Been my son's best friend for a long time, one of his best friends. I'd do anything in the world for him, and he knows it. So I'm not racist by any means. So when I say this, do not try to come back and accuse me of such. But you don't see me gathering my friends out protesting, tearing down buildings, gathering guns, throwing rocks at people, threatening them, calling people names. What you see me doing is praying. Praying for the family of that man. Praying for God to give them some kind of peace. Because I can't imagine what they're going through. And I'm also praying for the man that shot him, because he's got to live with that. He's accountable for that. And that's something he's going to have to face God. He's going to have to face Jesus for that one. And yes, there's forgiveness. But I'm not, it's not my place. It's not my place to hold it. That's between him, the justice system, and Jesus. My heart goes out to the young man's family. And when it comes to George Floyd, the same thing. My heart goes to his family. The justice system handled the officers. And they are accountable to God. That's between them and Jesus when their time comes. I worked in the legal field, and I worked in the parole office for a while. I saw a lot of things, read a lot of things. But you know what? As much as I hated things I seen, and there were people that, when I read the stories, it sickened my stomach. It wasn't for me to judge. It's not my place. It's not my place to get out in the street and destroy things and tear things up. It's between them and God. And I don't know, it's not my place to tell anybody how to think and believe. But all I know, if God says pray, you pray for them. So I pray. I pray for George Floyd's family. I pray for Officer Derek Churd's family. But I pray for the people that done him wrong, too. And I pray that justice system does its part. And I pray that God hold them accountable, just like he's going to hold me accountable for every sin I've done. And I ask forgiveness for them all. Because I'm accountable, just like you're accountable. But as far as your question, that's your answer. One of them. I'm sure there's more. But that was a white person who was killed online. The video. So that answers your question. And my second example now. On that part of the prejudice, that is feelings of a person group that's formed without knowledge, that gets formed from one thing that becomes a potential experience that says it. This was before he was even elected. On 6/10 of 2020, Joe Biden stated, "There's absolutely systematic racism in law enforcement." So our police did not have a chance before he even got elected. And I'm sorry, but we need our police officers. We do. People think that, yes, there are good ones and there are bad ones. But let me tell you something. The good ones that go out every day and they fight to keep people alive and they fight to keep our streets safe and they put in all those years, or they see things that they shouldn't have to see, or they have to do things that they don't want to have to do to keep us safe. You don't know some of the trauma that they have to live with. You don't know some of the PTSD that they deal with. You don't know how many of them we've lost by taking their own lives because of some of the horror that they've had to see or go through over years. So for people that are shouting defund the police because of one bad experience that the media has drug out and that people are using to cause hatred, please, I can give you 10 good officers that I can give you good stories about. I'm not saying there's not racism in the world. There is. But there's more that's not. We're not all racist. There's more people that are not racist in the world than there are racists. Trust me. And if we just love each other and we stand together and we quit listening to the lies of the media and the politics and we just be humans, because that's all we are. We're a human race. We're not all white race. We're not all black race. We're not all Asian. We're not all Mexican. We're not all Italian. We're not all anything. We're a human race. We're all flesh and blood. So let's just be a human race and let's love each other. And let's quit listening to this lies. I just told you. I gave you research. I read the definition of racism. I read the definition of systematic racism, how it takes aggression and oppression to cause it. And it's not all black and white. It's not all red and blue and green and yellow. It's much more. And I told you, we, the American people, are not the ones causing it. It's the government and the news. Fake news. So let's really unite America and let's show them that we love each other. and that we're not going to let them tear us apart. Okay? So, I know I took your time, but I hope you feel my heart. Love y'all. Till next time.